today we're going to be pulling the engine, and so we have this lift here, and then we're gonna, since it doesn't have engine like lift points, we're gonna wrap chains around here, and then hopefully the engine should just lift up nice, and we'll use ratchet straps to control it. And once we have the engine out, hopefully it'll lay nice on this transmission like jack thing and this tire and some wood. Hopefully it'll lay nice sideways is my plan, but we'll see if it works or not. Hopefully it will. I think it will, because the engine stand we did have that I rebuilt my Camaro's engine on won't work for this because it's a different style of flywheel and it's just going to be weird. So I'm just going to rebuild it sideways, which shouldn't be too much harder. All right, so here I have one of the chains hooked up, which you can see it's just wrapped around the engine there. Couldn't get the manifold off, so we're just leaving that on, and it works. The chain just goes right through there. So I'll probably put a towel under the chain or something so it doesn't dent up the oil pan too much. But I'm just gonna put one chain here and then one chain here. Since it's hitting the spark plug off, remove the spark plug. Probably should remove all the spark plugs so we don't risk breaking any of those. That's basically the plan. Should be pretty simple, but we'll see. Nothing ever is. All right, so we're gonna have to figure something out because the engine hoist is hitting the bumper, so we might have to take the bumper off so we can get that extra foot or so, because we need that chain to be here and this one to be about there. So I might be able to make something work, but if you have to take the bumper off, I hope not, but you know, you kind of see the vision here. All right, so I found a slight issue. This chain here does not fit into this. So like it's too big, or this whatever is too big. So we're gonna probably have to go to Home Depot again and get 2 more of those. So, you know, just minor inconveniences. It happens. All right, so I had the idea of seeing if I could fit the old chain to the new chain, but as you can see, it clearly doesn't fit. So we'll for sure have to go get more of these, which is fine. They're not super expensive. All right, so here's the setup. I didn't end up running to Home Depot because I didn't feel like it, or we didn't feel like it. So my dad got these. We just put bolts through the chains and it ended up working. We just have 2 bolts in that one, 3 in this one, 2 in that one. So that should hold. I ended up taking the spark plugs out because I didn't want anything to, you know, it wasn't a big deal. I just didn't want anything to break. Then to protect the side of the engine, I just put rags, old rags I used to paint the Saab. You know, so I don't have to worry about that. And then we're like real tight up close to the bumper, so I put a towel here. That should be fine. But hopefully when this undoes, like comes undone, it should swing about up to here, and we'll have this much room to play with. So we should be good. All right, so my dad's under the car. He's loosening the shift linkage, and while he's doing that, I'm loosening the engine mounts up here. I'm not fully taking them off yet. I just want them to be loose so things aren't straining or things aren't gonna break. All right, so that's it for tonight. We'll finish pulling the engine in the morning because we just have 4 bolts. We have 2 up there and then 1 on each side. We have a couple of tiny little things we have to do. We're gonna jack up the transmission with a little bottle jack thing. So the weight's on there, and then the engine is mostly on this just so it won't sag. And so we're gonna finish pulling the engine tomorrow. It shouldn't be too much more work. Before I'm done for tonight, I'm gonna start soaking some of the head bolts. I've already loosened a couple, but there's a couple I haven't gotten off. So I'm just loosening or soaking these head bolts in some penetrating oil so they're easier to get off. And then there's some bolts like this, the automatic choke if I want to take that off. And then the transmission bolts to engine, I've soaked those just so in the morning those are easier to get off. And most bolts on this actually haven't been too hard to get off, even though they've been on there for 75 years. I guess there's build quality or whatever. So that's been nice, but just before I go to bed, soak them so it's easier in the morning.
One day later.
Next morning, and all I have to do is loosen those 4 bolts down there, the engine mount bolts, and the 4 bolts in the back. So I think we're gonna loosen the 4 bolts in the back, and then the engine mount bolts, and then this engine's ready to pull. Once we have the engine pulled, we're gonna hopefully, I'll clean all this off, but under my tools, there's the transmission jack, and there's the tire. Like I was saying, here's the tire, here's the transmission jack. I put some wood on here so it's not going to scratch up the engine or anything. And the plan's basically I'm going to lay the engine sideways because the engine stand we did have is not going to work with this engine. So I'm just gonna kind of rebuild it sideways, and it shouldn't be too hard. I might stack some more wood so it's more at like this level, and so it's easier to work on, but this is the plan, and I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna get to work and start loosening those bolts, and then I'll update you once we're starting to pull the engine. Alright, so we're kind of having an issue with the transmission not coming out of the bell housing, so I think we're going to disconnect the drive shaft so we can pull the transmission back more, and so this should just slide out and we should be able to lift it up with no problem. But we're going to disconnect the drive shaft real quick, and then hopefully that'll solve the issue. Alright, as you can see, the engine is now out. It was a little bit of pain. Sometimes like the exhaust got stuck, the bell housing was it was the whole thing. This got bent up a little, collateral, whatever. And just like I planned, there's a couple things on top of it now, just whatever. But the engine is sideways, kind of on the transmission jack, mostly on the tire. And the flywheel is fine, it's not hitting the ground or anything. But I should be able to pull the engine or the oil pan off, and then the head off. I should be able to pull that off just fine. And I should be able to take the cylinders out the bottom. And that shouldn't be too hard. And that's basically gonna do it for this video. Stay tuned for hopefully probably 4 parts, 3-4 days on rebuilding this engine. And I'll see you in the next one.